Welcome to In the Kitchen. Today it's just us in the kitchen with the Funnel Chef team. And if you're not already familiar with who we are and what we do, well, we help clients implement proven recipes into their business that in turn helps them attract more clients, generate more revenue and profit for the business, all while taking the guesswork out of it and no longer wasting time and money on what does not work. So today we've got the Funnel Chef team, got Mr. Scott Concannon, one of our head chefs, and Mikey Tiber, another one of our head chefs, and then myself, Chris Terry, again, another one of our head chefs. So guys, just in case there's someone here who doesn't know us already, do you guys want to give them a little introduction on yourself?
Yeah, I'll start. So yeah, my name's Scott. And so essentially what I do is like as my head chef, I've really focused on the operations and the technical automations for like growing entrepreneur systems and businesses at scale. And that's been one of my primary focuses ever since I came into the entrepreneurial space, is to help you automate everything from your marketing process, your sales processes, operations and fulfillment processes, and be able to put it into a structure, a recipe that is duplicatable, it's efficient, and more importantly, it allows you to continue to do what you did when you got into business, actually enjoy what the hell you're talking about, what the hell you're doing. And so that way you're not just dragged down by the ceaseless day-to-day grind of being a entrepreneur, if that makes sense.
So I guess that's my cue. Thanks for jumping off and leading off, Scott. So my name is Mike Tiber. I'm a happily non-practicing pardon licensed attorney in the state of Florida. I help people build out their sales divisions and project manage their marketing. Started doing that after selling a commercial finance company that I ran for 7 years, which I did after selling biometric authentication IP. But a serial entrepreneur, love working with other entrepreneurs, and frankly, helping great people with great offers get great results. It's like being a privatized TEDx.
Yeah, guys, and my name is Chris Terry, again, one of the head chefs over at Funnel Chef. So I've got a background in marketing, but I've been an entrepreneur all of my life. Started going around selling cups full of Coca-Cola at school for 50 cents, and I'd buy the 2-liter for $2 and sell 20 cups for 50 cents. So it's kind of translated and followed me through life, and which got me to where I am now, which is where, love working with other coaches, consultants, and agency owners, helping them, stop wasting time and refine their processes so that they can streamline their sales and marketing and get back to what they actually love doing, which is solving problems and actually helping people. So guys, I know
I sold candy on the bus.
There you go. So it all started when we were kids, right? And then, some things never change, right? I guess we never grow up. So we kind of briefly discussed, what we want to talk about today. And it sounds like there's 3, main things that were on our mind that, we thought, now would be a good time to talk about it and put it out in the world so it could potentially help whoever's listening, and maybe give them some more insight as well. So I guess just to get started, we can kind of go through, and we kind of just did, but I think maybe in more detail about our actual business is, our who, why, what, and when, and our how, right? So what we do, why we do it, who we help, and how we actually do it. And then also when. I know we like being, very specific in terms of productivity, and actually setting goals, attainable goals and achievable goals, and then reaching those goals, being very specific about what we do. So Mikey, tell us about Funnel Chef.
So Funnel Chef was the brainstorm of, the individuals on this call right now. After years of trial and error, frankly, working with clients on a much more hands-on basis. So, it feels a little bit weird explaining it to you, Chris, saying that you've been here with me for, or we've been together for a lot of it, or Scott, who we've been working together for a lot of it. But after having helped, thousands of businesses audited tens of thousands of sales funnels, marketing channels, marketing processes and series, paid millions of dollars to agencies, consultants, coaches, and frankly, in ad marketing dollars, and generated a couple $100 million for clients. We figured out what works and doesn't work. And it's not anything crazy or necessarily revolutionary. It's a series of, just like everything else, it's the accumulation of a series of small steps and little things that you change in your business. And you just, unless you have the time to take the lumps and go through the trial and error, which most of us don't, or you have the money to pay somebody to show you how, and typically do it for you, right? Because let's be honest, professions are conspiracies against the laden, right? The marketing agencies are not incentivized to teach you how to do things yourself most often. So, any case, we after a series of working with other people, we decided that we only wanted to work with good people, and we wanted to help good people provide value to others in good ways. And this is how we saw to do it best, by taking what we know, boiling it down into simple and repeatable recipes that are easy to refine to anyone's specific business need.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like you said, right, I think all three of us have we've been working together for a while, and this is just kind of how evolution works, right? In the past, we never really, I don't think, marketed our services. It was always word of mouth, which is great. That's a great problem to have, right? I think most people would agree that the strongest form of marketing is word of mouth. But like you mentioned, right, weren't always teaching people how to do it. And that's, essentially one of the differences in what we're doing now is that, we want to help people, who are the best at what they do, help more people and streamline that process, make it as easy as possible. Because, at least for myself, and I imagine all of you guys, we've spoken to a lot of coaches, consultants, and agency owners, and, maybe they're in the beginning stages of their business. And when you're in that stage, just like you're a child, right, there's an overload of information. You don't know what to do, who to listen to, or how to do it, or when to do it. And, you can take people's advice and have success that way, which is probably one of the easiest ways to get going. But there's also a learning curve for yourself, right? You also want to learn for yourself and understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, and why it actually works.
Well, I think that I can speak for all of us on this call today, or on this meeting today, on the podcast today, that the educated client tends to be a more enjoyable client than one that has no idea about what's going on. And at this kind of stage in our career, it's almost like a baseline of knowledge that you want someone to have that's going to work with you. That doesn't mean they need to be an expert, but they need to get the general gist and flow of things, and have some reasonable, expectations, which, like you said, when you first start a business for yourself, you are an island unto yourself. No one's throwing you a lifeline. No one's out there making sure that you're getting your training courses in and learning other cross-disciplinary skills to improve, right? You got to focus on what you know best and do it the best you can. So.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of people, when they first get started, you're just looking for clients, right? I think everyone gets into business, any business at all. You're here to solve problems, right? Even if you take a restaurant, well, they're solving the problem of someone being hungry. Italian restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, they're pretty much doing the same thing. They're solving the same problem. They're just putting their own spin on it. And I think most people, at least people who are genuine about what they're doing and really believe that they're here to make a difference and help people solve these problems, they just get started for that, right? They want to help people solve problems. Well, what happens is there's all of the other moving pieces around that ends up, I think, causing the stress. And sometimes, it's what affects their business growth, also their happiness away from business, at home, with their family, with their friends. And so, finding those good clients, right, that are educated And aside from that, I would go even further in saying, also finding clients who are coachable. So who want to be that piece of clay that can be molded, right? Anyone who's coached, done any sort of coaching or consulting work knows that if you're trying to help someone who will not change, will not implement any of the ideas and strategies that they paid you to help them learn and actually use, then it's a headache for you, but it's also a headache because, we get into business to help solve problems. And whenever we can't solve a problem due to outside forces that we can't control, that's just always frustrating. At least that's how it's been, in my experience. And I imagine with you guys, maybe not the exact same, maybe you'd word it differently, but I think there's a similar, like pattern and, process that goes into like what causes the frustrations in a business.
Yeah, I'd parrot that. I would say, like, from my experience of working with very large, like Fortune, like 5 companies in e-com or commerce in general. I mean, everything's so dialed in, everything from distribution to, if you have a storefront, getting everything like systematized, whether or not that's the sales, that's the marketing, and then that's fulfillment. And a lot of people who go into business for themselves usually have a really good knowledge set or have the skill sets necessary to really change someone's lives. But what you're so used to, if you've been in the corporate world or you're just seeing the success of a guy who says he's driving around a Ferrari, is that they don't see that to run that type of organization or to get your business to that level. You need to basically put pieces in place to create that efficiency, to create that consistency. So that way you're continually generating results instead of just thinking, if I take this one magic pill in business, then all of a sudden I'm going to be, the next Elon Musk or something like that. So like, definitely like what you said, my experience has always been is typically someone dials in a certain segment of their business, and that could be the marketing, and then they're flushed with leads, and then they have a pretty subpar sales system. Or maybe they dial in the sales and marketing, and then all of a sudden they're cash heavy. And the problem then becomes they have no fulfillment in place to be able to handle the influx of clients. So then it becomes that the next pain point of now you're just dealing with irate customers. And then you're dealing with issues, and it just seems like nothing's going right. And then sales start to flutter and marketing starts to flutter because you didn't put like a proven system, or again, it's really basic stuff, but be able to, have that client, realize like, hey, if you're making all this money, you don't need to go spend it right now. You need to be putting the recipe for the like automations, for fulfillment, for various team members, and make sure that you're willing to invest in your company as the owner. And a lot of people lose sight of that, at least from my experiences, as we've seen over the last couple of years of working together with our hands-on approach. It's like, this is how we're going to do it. This is our process. This is our system. This is our recipe for success. We generate the revenue, we generate the results, and then we usually hit a linchpin due to the owner operator or leadership team deciding what's best at that juncture, in the sense of, well, I think we're in a good spot. We don't need to do XYZ because you guys have done what you mentioned, and that's generate results. But fulfillment and client communication, customer service usually goes to the wayside first.
Yes, it's really unfortunate how little focus is put there. I mean, I get it. As entrepreneurs, our first focus is bringing cash in the door, right? Is there a market there? Can we generate some business and handle it? A lot of times they focus on sales and then marketing, or marketing and then sales, and they completely forget operations. Man, the whole thing falls apart. That's how Jet Azul came to exist, right? If anybody remembers that JetBlue case study from Black Valentine's Day, they were all stuck on the runway for like 15 hours, people going to the ER and stuff like that, and the CEO founder got fired because of it. You gotta put your systems and back end in place, is what it is.
Yeah, I think when a lot of people get started, they're so concerned with two really important pieces, which is their marketing and sales. But growing pains, like, that is a thing, right? And in the past, we've actually, been guilty of this, and this is where I think we've made changes, is that we've worked with clients and we've helped them grow too fast, and then that's when those issues come in to play. And so, at least for myself, and I think for us, we've done that in the past where we've helped people grow way too fast. They generate too much revenue. And then the things on the back end is what gets overlooked sometimes. So we've definitely had to, I think, kind of slow down ourselves in terms of clients we work with, making sure that instead of just growing insanely fast, we're actually just hitting small goals along the way so they can grow sustainably. And I think that for some people, they're like, man, that's a problem that I wish I could have, that I just grew too fast. I made too much money too quickly, right? And maybe that is, it's a better problem to have, maybe than the opposite. But same way when you're a kid, right? You're a little short guy, you're like 4 feet tall. You want to be 6 foot tall, but what you don't want to happen is to grow from 4 feet to 6 feet tall overnight, because then none of your clothes fits, none of your shoes fit, and your family's scared of you, right? So it's growing, in a sustainable way, but also making sure that you're checking things off the list as you go. And, it's not just your feet growing, right? It's not just your legs getting longer, it's everything growing together. So that it actually makes sense in the long run. And yeah, again, you don't just outgrow all of your shoes overnight.
Yeah. And I'd say that's why we even, just to like wrap that segment up of the topic, is like why we even do what we do is, through our experiences from selling Coke or selling, candy on the bus, like when you guys were kids, into like what we've done now, is that being able to set the right systems, processes, and like the basic necessities to get your business up and running is why we do what we do, and why we've even transitioned to go from like working one-on-one on a consistent basis to go to more of working with a whole lot more, so we can facilitate that change and provide the insight that all the pain points we've been through, that our clients have been through, so that way we can then provide you those very basic recipes, those very basic operational structures, whether or not that's marketing, sales, or real automation. Then you don't have to make the same mistakes our clients that we did, and it allows you to grow and scale your business more efficiently without all the heartache.
Yeah. And something as well, and sorry, I'll pass over to you, Mikey, but just to mention it really quick before we do head over, is that this is something that we discuss like with all of our clients, anyone that we work with, and we're very upfront about it. But it's that there's not just one recipe for success, right? There's many recipes for success, but the thing that we love working through with all of our clients is what's the right recipe for you today, right? Because that 2 years down the line, obviously, if your business grows, it's not going to look the exact same as it is today, but we also need to take assessment of what ingredients you have, what's the best and the most efficient way to use those, and what's the best recipe that you can use today.
Yes. So something I was going to say, we just gave a lot of attention to people that have that back end problem. I would say, that's probably 30 to 35% of new entrepreneurs. More entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, small business owners, people that are transitioning, they're either they don't have a good solution to market match. They're a problem in search of a solution, or they haven't figured out, they're a technician, right? Like the 4-hour work week talks about, they're a technician, they know their lane, but they don't know the rest of it. And actually getting those first clients can be some of the most difficult, part of the job. And if they're transitioning out of working for another company and maybe taking on a client that company had, or going private, for the company that they were working for, then it's, well, so how do I take this money that I have coming in and make it so that I have more clients in the future? Because otherwise, you're standing on a one-legged stool with the one client, all the consolidation risk. That's not exactly where you want to be. So, but just an aside.
Yeah, no, Scott. And so what would you, I know you and I were discussing this earlier, but we're talking about different struggles, problems that a lot of newer coaches, consultants, and agency owners might have. And you made a really good point. I'd rather let you talk about it than steal your thunder, but it feels like a smooth transition into that topic.
Yeah, and I think it also plays into what Mikey was saying, is that with a lot of like new entrepreneurs, people come to the market, they know that they can help someone. They have great ideas, a lot of ideas, and a lot of different ways they could go to market. I like to compare it to like insurance agents that I've helped consult is, if you work for X Corp, you might have 115 different products or services you could technically take to market today. And really, each of those services could help an individual. However, you need to be very laser focused, dial in like your specific pain points that you want to solve to your market, and be ultra consistent with your marketing, your messaging, and like how you're actually going to transform someone, whether or not you're a marketing agency, you're a mindset coach, you're a weight loss coach, is you need to be able to really talk to your market and build an offer, or basically your service price, that not only allows you to make money, but it's completely transformational to your client. And where we've seen a lot of like the fall through is someone's like, well, I can do X, Y, Z. I got all these cool things I can do. But when they articulate it, or when they get in front of an audience, they don't know how to present it, / they're kind of all over the board. But being like uber precise on what you're going to help your market is typically one of the easiest ways a brand new entrepreneur can start seeing success as fast as possible. Is a great offer that truly is dialed into their pain points of their market, and it tackles like 1 to 3 very specific pain points. So that way you can get those first few clients signed up and then be able to, make more out of it. But from like my interpretation and kind of what we talked about, it's a lot of it's just trying too many things, like just shotgun approach, instead of finding one consistent approach and then every single day using that same recipe over and over. It's like when I played football and you're in inside run drill for 8 minutes. What do? We just run straight run plays. Defense knows what's coming. I'm getting hit in the mouth, but we do that and we run it over and over, because when you get tired and when you get, beat up, you can still run the dang play. It stinks sometimes, but there's going to be a good time. If you're consistent with it, you're going to pop one. So that's how I kind of look at it. And sports analogies and football are easy for me to go back to, because
For everyone that doesn't know, Scott here is a Columbia, Missouri football Hall of Famer, NCAA Division I, player. So that's where his references will come from time to time. But yeah, we're very proud to have him on our team these days.
Run the ball, Scott.
But no, he's right though. It's basics, right? If you look at all the greats in anything, they are all average or slightly above average in all areas that matter. And then they're excellent in one thing, in one specific thing. And to become excellent in that one specific thing, it took a million shots, right? Like what was Michael Jordan's quote about all the shots that he took? Does anybody know this one? It's like that number of shots from the free throw line. He's like, it was 100,000 shots from the free throw line before the game winning point. It's doing that same spot over and over and over again. But to your point, sorry, Chris, you were saying?
No, I was just mentioning that, kind of touching on what Scott said is, like I'm from South Georgia, right? And we say it in a Southern accent, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So you find out what works and then you keep doing that. I think being very specific about what you do is important. A lot of people, when they first start getting into business, they don't really know, right? And this is something that we work through with a lot of clients in, our meal planning program, is that we're clearly defining your who, why, what, when, and how, and breaking it down, keeping it stupid simple, because that's where a lot of people, you start making things more complicated than they are. And sometimes that slows you down, right? You need to know exactly who it is, who your target audience is, who you want to work with, who you best resonate with, and what exactly are you doing for them, right? If you're not talking to someone specific, you're basically just opening up your door and just yelling outside, right? And probably no one's going to hear that. But if you actually call someone and then tell them what you were just yelling outside, that person's going to hear it. And it's probably the actual person who should hear it instead of just yelling it out to the world. So I think being specific and using what you know works time and time again, that's usually a smart thing. And again, taking the guesswork out of it, right? I know we mention this all the time, but we use proven recipes for success. And this is for our clients implementing in their business because it's taking all the guesswork out of it and they're using proven processes, methods, recipes that's going to result in them attracting more clients and generating more sales, bringing in more revenue for the business. And that's taking the guesswork out of it and just using what we know works, right? And like you mentioned, Mikey, as well, this isn't something that's crazy complicated in rocket science. There's an artist and an author out of Austin, Texas. His name's actually also Austin, Austin Kleon, and his book, one that I think I saw online, he just sold like his millionth copy, or maybe I'm adding a zero to it. I don't know. But it's called Steal Like an Artist. And one quote that he says in the book is that, if you steal from one person, it's plagiarism. If you steal from everyone, it's called creativity. And so I think aside from making things complicated, I also think that a lot of people are too, especially in the beginning, they're way too focused on individuality and creativity. They think that they have to be reinventing the wheel every single time. And, as all of us can probably agree, is that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single day. The wheel is good by itself. It's what gets you from point A to point B. And so, I don't think we should be ashamed. Everyone, your brain is like a sponge. You're absorbing knowledge throughout your whole life. And that's what affects you. That's what affects your personality. And I think it happens in your business the same way, right? If you help X amount of people solve this one problem, well, stop fighting it, right? That's probably the problem that you're there to actually solve.
So,
You don't have to reinvent anything. Just keep doing what you're doing, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
To kind of add something to that, a problem that I see with a lot of clients is that they will get overwhelmed trying to, make 1,000 decisions and improve everything. They talk about the innovation. We gotta have innovation in action. Well, those two things don't actually work well together the way most people are saying them. Innovation is really A/B testing, applying the scientific method to your processes over time and identifying a specific variable, isolating it, and determining if a small tweak or change improves your business. That does not mean changing every fucking thing, excuse my French, every damn day, because that change is the actual enemy of productivity, especially as your company grows. One person may be brilliant, a genius, know everything, and be able to adopt new systems like that. Your team's not going to be able to. So, little changes at a time. But I also can appreciate how difficult that can be when you're a new entrepreneur out there by yourself without any real direction, mentorship, or coaching. So.
Yeah, definitely for, solo entrepreneurs, right? And there's a lot of people that we speak to with, and I think everyone, especially if you're a coach or a consultant, oftentimes, like more than not, when you start your business, you're by yourself, right? You're starting it on your own. And so you're wearing a ton of different hats there, right? Not only are you face of the business, so you're doing the marketing, you're doing the sales, you're also doing the fulfillment, and you're also doing the customer service. And again, there is such a thing as information overload. And when you're trying to focus on 4 different screens in front of you at one time, you're going to miss something that goes on another screen. Or maybe you're just not going to pay as much attention to detail, on that screen, right? And so that's where, and we've done it ourselves, right? You hire a coach or consultant to help you out in the business. Sometimes someone standing outside the room, when they look in, they're going to see something different, right? They're going to see it from a different point of view. And especially in terms of when you're trying to grow, you're trying to make a ton of changes and deliver on a ton of deliverabilities, right? And by yourself a lot of times. And it's hard to do.
So it's So my grandfather's a relatively successful entrepreneur. He worked for Sears and then built a chain of rent-to-own appliance stores. And at one point early on in my career, I asked my guy, said, Pop, he's like, yeah, I remember we paid like $200,000. Mind, this is in the 80s. So that's a pretty decent chunk of change for a regional appliance chain. He's like, yeah, we paid such and such 200 grand to come in, review and audit our business and just tell us where we can improve and generally how. I go, why the hell? You're a great businessman. Why the hell would you spend so much money? He goes, because I'm busy running my business. Like, sometimes it helps I don't have the time to research all best practices. I don't have the time to step outside and audit from a third party view from 30,000 feet, what the landscape's like and how we should be fitting into it, because that's what you pay those people for. I got to be in the business actually running it, and that's the case for most entrepreneurs that have real value to give.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, and I thought this was from Mark Cuban. Turns out it's actually Bon Jovi lyrics, but it's still great, right? It goes, "I'm smart enough to know what I don't know," and it's a pretty short, statement, but it actually says a lot. And I think there is a difference like that, like you just mentioned with your grandfather, right? Sounds like he was smart enough to know what he doesn't know, and sometimes that's just understanding that you don't know everything, right? And I don't think there's any sort of shame in admitting that. I would be more shameful to be scared to admit that. But especially as a business owner, you do probably know more about your business than anyone else. But there's also some things about business that you could probably benefit from, just another set of eyes, someone else taking an outside look in, helping you out with your business so that you can still focus on the important thing, which is serving your clients, your audience, and solving those problems for them.
100%.
And so, Mikey, I know we were actually discussing this yesterday as well, just kind of talking about like some past clients we've worked with. And there was one person in particular that came to mind. And this is someone who, it's actually interesting because, when we first got started working with them, they were already having like some level of success, right? They were already hitting 6 figures in a year, which is where some people want to get. But kind of like what we were discussing earlier, right? There's the growing pains and, some people are just trying to get started, just trying to get clients in the door. But, this person, they were already doing 6 figures a year and they're trying to get to that next level. So they were trying to scale and go from 6 figures to 7 figures. And we actually used one of our recipes that we actually use for a lot of clients in their business. And it actually helped them go from 6 figures a year to 6 to 7 figures per month. And what some people, like we were just discussing, where maybe the owner is a little scared to step away from the process, is that he was actually able to do this, but still be involved in the process through recorded VSLs, webinars, and then also hosting like bigger like masterminds as well. And something that, I think some people would be pretty, I don't want to say appalled to hear, but surprised to hear, is that we were able to do 6 to 7 figures a month with this client. And he only had a sales team of about 8 people.
Yeah. So now I know who you're talking about. There was a few candidates that would fit the general description early on, but in any case, you're talking about Mike, great guy, not a decent entrepreneur. I would say above average entrepreneur, educated, hardworking. He was, at one point, he was actually also a professional athlete. So he transitioned from being a professional athlete to this other business where he's a consultant for people. And he had done 600,000 in revenue from the point when he founded the business to the day we met. And from the day we met to 9 months later, we'd never had, 6 months later, we never had a month that was below $500,000 sales after we took over. But it's funny with him in particular, talk about, business owners kind of getting in their own way type of deal. He was running one-to-one sales calls. So he had a series of affiliates that would refer him over people. The problem with affiliate sales teams is usually they're not very well trained. They say anything, especially if they get paid well. So these affiliates would push them over into one-on-one sales calls with him, and then he would close the deal and then, provide all the operations. So we came in, we wiped out all the affiliates, turned on some real marketing in a couple different channels. And at first we were doing the one-to-one sales calls the same way that he was doing them previously. He thought it was the best. And Chris, you're I think I'm going to say it was my idea, but your execution and taking and inputting the Evernar or an evergreen webinar into that sequence. What did you guys do? You and one other were able to close 200 something transactions in like a 90-day period with that. It was like 3 or 4 times everybody else on the team.
Yes. So yeah, one thing, I guess there's 2 sides to this, right? One is where the owner can take a little step back, still be involved in the process through like recorded VSLs and webinars. But what I think a lot of business owners and salespeople would probably all relate to is that when you're strictly just doing these one-on-one calls, and it's one-on-one calls with someone who you haven't spoken with yet, well, there's 2 things that happens, right? One, you end up wasting time because you have people who just don't show up to the call. Everyone deals with no-shows. It's just part of doing sales. But also you're speaking with, unfortunately, some people who just aren't qualified, who shouldn't be there. So what happens is you have an 8-hour block in your day. And let's just say, in that situation, there was full presentations being done, one-on-one selling. And so it's about an hour call, give or take. I think they're basically blocked at like 45 minutes.
Well, so that was a 1-hour presentation, right? But the actual man hours per close, so to clarify for everybody, it was a $22,000 average ticket. The highest in sale was about $500,000. The lowest end offer was 10,000. So these were a little bit longer conversations. People had questions. They wanted more information. They wanted to review the contract. They always brought in an attorney, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't just a 45-minute presentation. And the show rate from ads was 20-25% at best. So you had to sit for 4 hours for one person to show up before you started that 4-hour series or 7-hour series of conversations for them to actually buy.
Yeah. And so, what happened, I guess the other thing there, right, is there's a lot of time being spent on one person just to speak to someone who's qualified, right? So this wasn't your standard, 30-minute phone call, just selling a standard sales coaching offer, right? There's a lot more involved with that. So that 1 hour, like you mentioned, that was for a presentation. And that was all done one-on-one. And so what happened was, I think his plan was just to keep expanding the sales team. Well, so what we did was we had a presentation that worked, was precise, down to the point. And so we just recorded it and used it on repeat as a recorded presentation. So when potential clients, prospects, leads would schedule, they would first view this recorded presentation. And then afterwards, they would have a Q&A session and an actual sales call. So we would make sure they're educated first and then take them through the sales process versus trying to do it all at the same time. And again, this is about segmenting, right? And this is also about being as efficient as possible with your time. So if you do have a smaller sales team, this is something that might make sense for you, but also, that wasn't a small company by any means, right? I think a lot of people, a lot of business owners would love to have an average month of like $500K a month, right? But the idea of doing that with a single digit sales team, sometimes that sounds a little unheard of, but it's about being very specific with the process. I think any good chef will tell you that, depending on whether you season too much, season too light, leave it in the oven too long, too short, it completely changes the recipe. So I know all of us here, we're very obsessed with paying attention to detail and making sure that everything's seasoned correctly throughout the process, because the messaging, the timing, the content, everything in between your conversations, with your prospects, that's equally just as important as the actual scripts and conversations you do have with them on the call.
So on that note, there were three other things that made that process and make that recipe so powerful. One was the video sales letter and sequencing in the front page. So they would, the purpose of marketing is to get people to ask questions. The purpose of sales is to get them to make a decision, right? That's like a very baseline thing that I explain to people when I'm coaching them or teaching them. So keeping that in mind, your ad, your messaging, whatever, it should get someone to say, what is that? Or want to learn more. And then you kind of ride that wave of interest into getting them more interested while also educating them to a degree. It's always an exchange, your time for theirs, your information for their information, et cetera. So to add to it, we had the VSL copy was pretty strong. And we did get it in there. We were able to automate a process to capture testimonials on the front and back of the sales process. So we had a good amount of social proof that really, helped. And then we took all of that social proof and case studies, which were also presented with the VSL on the front, and sequenced them out over a series of messages, which we call a sales assist cadence, and then a re-engage and retargeting cadence on the back. Because the fact of the matter is, only 60% of the people that you are going to be able to close, only 40% of the people that you're going to be able to close are going to close in that first 30 to 60 days after they see the presentation and go into the sales process. The other 60%, of your potential revenue is going to drag out over an 8 to 12 month period. So having that continued touch point and staying in front of them, it really helped a lot. And then not for nothing, the confirmation sequence, helped a decent amount. And then the systems that we use to see when and where they would might fall out of that ultimate presentation, and the triggering for the follow-up sequences based on it, made a pretty big difference. So yes, none of those individual things are anything crazy, but when you start talking about the nuances and how to put them together, most people's eyes are going to start rolling back in their head. But hey, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where, it does sound like a lot if we were to map it out for someone, but, we put these together as recipes. And so we're able to just implement it for clients. And they don't have to piece all of that together themselves. Right. And that's something that, like me and my fiance, like we love to eat great food, but we're not 5-star chefs and we don't have to be, right. We just go out and find great recipes that we love. And then as long as we have the ingredients, and we follow the step-by-step process, then we can also, just cook that recipe. And 9 times out of 10, as long as you follow that process and you have those ingredients, you're going to get great results. And then also, if we don't have the ingredients, well, we could go out in our backyard and we could plant a garden and grow it, right? Or we could just go to the market and actually pick it up. So, again, like you mentioned, that there's a lot of detail that's inside of that recipe, but it's not something anyone has to do on their own. That is what we're here for, is that we have them as recipes. So you can just drop it into your business. And, as long as you got the ingredients, follow the step-by-step process, you'll start having, success. Yeah.
It's like an old a friend, former stockbroker, friend of mine, and colleague used to say, he said, if you want to get a good look at a T-bone steak, you can stick your head up a cow's ass, but I'd rather just go to the butcher shop. Yeah, I think that applies.
It's for Tommy boy. Come on, man. But yes, it's the same truth though. As you guys just even mapped, it can sound like an incredibly difficult process, but depending on where you're at in your business, whether or not you're startup or you're at 6 figures or you made 600,000 over the course of the last 2 years or something, you're able to piece together the right recipes to put directly and insert them into your operational structure. So you don't have to spend 6 months trial and error. You can get something up and running in a span of a couple hours. And then from there, it's just optimizing the process to fit your needs. And that's exactly what each recipe is designed to do. And like why we even like brought this conglomerate of supervillains together is like through like trial and error that they've been through and getting into great success for clients, or the operational and the automation that I work with my clients on. It's like we all see the same problems. It's overthinking, overcomplicating, and taking just way too long to try to learn something. When in reality, you can just plug and play and then just start going from there.
Yeah. And I think some people, again, they're worried about change in general, which I think is what everyone's a little afraid of, but it's also the fear of failure. When someone, especially if it's with their business, they're trying to implement new strategies, like they know they want to grow. They can sometimes see this is the aspect of my business that I need to improve on, but there's sometimes that fear of what if I try doing this and it doesn't work, right? And that's where you get stuck in that cycle of just doing guesswork. You're thinking, okay, let me try this, see what happens. And then it doesn't work, or it does. And if it doesn't work, you just wasted money potentially on like your marketing and potential dollars lost from clients. But also the biggest thing is that you wasted time, and that's something that we talk about with all of our clients, right? Is that, you can, we give people these recipes that they can just implement in their business, and it's up to them. You can do it yourself, you can do it with us, or we can do it for you, which I think is a simple way of breaking it down. But at the same time, it's also, no one likes wasting time. And if you're just guessing on what's going to work, then that's usually going to happen, right? And so, guys, if this is your first time listening to our podcast, we're three of the head chefs over at Funnel Chef. And, what we do is we help our clients implement proven recipes for success into their business. So in turn, they're going to attract more clients and generate more revenue for the business and make more money, and do all this without guessing what's going to work. So we're using proven recipes for success, plugging it into your business and getting results. So this is In the Kitchen. Today, it's just In the Kitchen with Funnel Chef. If you want to check us out on social media, you can go to our website, funnelchef.io, and you can get more information. Again, it's funnelchef.io. That's where you can find us online. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's just funnelchef.io.